Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to our partners. Thanks again to you all for engaging. Please give us a like, a love, a follow. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends and family. She's Maya Palacio. I'm Jamel Harp, and it's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, and People's Pharmacy. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us be on the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got Bermuda is Love in his house. It's been a while. It's Christian Chingaret, and we're talking about the environment. Give him a warm TDH welcome. I said, give him a warm TDH welcome. Hey. They were shy today, Christian. Welcome. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Lovely to be here and be with you all. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thanks for stopping by. I almost feel like I would feel bad putting you on the spot, but I usually do that with people when they come on, just to see if they were tuned in and get their opinion. So I'm going to put it out there. Did you have an opinion on whether MPs should get an increase in pay?
So looking at MPs and increase in pay, one example is Singapore. And for example, their MP has a pay of $1 million, which you might seem is quite extreme, but that also, with politics comes responsibility and the opportunity to abuse that. And therefore increasing pay, which one could argue reduces that chance of that, as well as talking about how past Bermudian sort of was prejudiced against the poor people in our community. So that is one variable that you can look at for that. But of course, with our debt loads and other public service and servants being underpaid, that some say, and overworked, I think that brings animosity to that sort of topic generally. And going to the other point, I love the sustainability design about Bermuda, being a person from Bermuda's Love, an environmental working group, and a man who's painted my own roof before. We definitely have a lot regarding our sustainability, especially the water space. Being a person who went to university in the UK, having a water bill for the first time was definitely a jarring experience.
You had me there. I was like, what's he talking about? You take Taylor's news report. Yeah. I was like that this morning. Yeah, I have to listen to the news, so I got you. But Kristen, thanks so much for joining us this morning. For those who don't know, just tell us a bit about your background and what your role is with Bermuda is Love. So
right now, born and raised in Bermuda, been here since birth, which is great. Went to university in the UK. I did an undergraduate in product design and a master in innovation entrepreneurship. So I sort of see the A to Z of business, and that helps me to approach not just environmentally, but understands the fundamental of sustainability. Because we talk about sustainability, but some people wonder what there's two ways: sustainable development and sustainability. And sustainability, you have three verticals: people, planet, and profit. And we often always focus on that profit and sometimes on the people, but we need to focus on all three. I appreciate that for sure.
Well, let's go into a little bit more. Can you actually tell us a bit about the environmental working group itself? Like, how does it operate? What does it do?
So it operates under the umbrella of Bermuda's Love. I'm sure you met our other people who are members. I focus on that. We are a grassroots organization, slowly growing, and we're also finally a charity. So I'm very excited about that. We do trash cleanups. We have a community garden at TM Tatum we work with, getting people onto the earth, as well as a community school garden we're working for with one of the government schools.
Interesting. Gotcha.
So it's just a small, slowly build up a process over time. Small steps.
So what does it mean to have this group, and like, why did you even start it?
As a person who's enjoyed the natural environment and has the pleasure of enjoying it, both in the food, both in the environment, I think it's an important aspect of it. You can't discount it. Our food comes from it, we all integrated part of it. And it's part of one of the 7 needs and verticals that we have. An environment affects all of them. And if we have a bad environment, both physically with the climate change and psychologically with not right space, it'll be very difficult to focus on, for example, food hunger that you discussed before earlier.
All right, audience, if you have any questions or comments, please send them through. But Maya, I just wanted to jump in real quickly because every time we talk about in the environment or climate, I go back to Maya's recent interview with the Honorable former PLP leader and current leader of the FDM, Mark Bean. There are a lot of people who don't think climate change is real. They don't, they don't take it seriously. I mean, as a person who's focused on the environment, what are you doing to change minds in that respect?
So I'm just going to go with the Honorable Mark Bean, as I appreciate his work that he's done in the community before. I actually was on another show analyzing that. And regarding that, it has been proved since the 1980s that climate change exists, and that was done by the oil companies, and that was then not sort of advocated for. It's, if you look at trends, generally it occurs. Yes, you have cycles of environments going up and down, but if you look at overall trends, it's trajecting upwards, not in the right direction.
Got you.
Mm.
People deny science. I mean, I to each their own, but it comes with a
We
risk.
also have flat earthers nowadays, and that was proved since the ancient Greeks. So there's always going to be deniers no matter what, but majority of scientists, over 99%, 90% of scientists say. So the consensus is not always correct, but when you have science constantly checking and double checking, you would certainly hope to trust them.
All right, cool. So I want to ask the audience, do you believe that climate change is real? Yes or no? Feel free. And honestly, there's no judgment zone here, right? There's evidence that says it is, but you may not agree with the evidence, right? Yes or no? I'd like to hear from our audience. I would like to know, yes or no, do you believe that climate change is real? I don't see those who say, no, it's not real, that is a bad thing. I think it's an opportunity to educate. You got me, Maya?
I completely get you, because outside, and I really do hope it's again I mentioned, outside of Mark and I's conversation, the Honorable Mark Bean and I's conversation, like we did get to talk a little bit more on the topic, and I think sometimes it's a way of how people see the word climate change as well. Like I just don't think we all have it under the same umbrella as to what it actually means. Like some people may think it's something that like has been made up and pushed, but they still know that things are changing within the climate. They just don't particularly like the word. Does that make sense?
The words.
It's like the word like insinuates something else, like it's like this propaganda word that just came about. This is what I'm getting from some
words.
Sorry, words, yes, climate change, the words. But versus like actually understanding and believing that yes, our planet is changing and it is largely due to, let's say, the human experience, or like yes, big corporations and things that put into the air, into our population to make things the way they have become now, which is very dangerous for us. Yeah.
I mean, I guess, and Maya makes a great point. Maybe it's the language, right? I mean, well, let's go to the audience, because I did ask, do you think climate change is real? And no surprise here, Monica Casey says yes. Shika Rana, no surprise, yes. No surprise, Renee Simmons, yes. Shamari Talbot Warwick says it's obvious climate change is real and people denying it are unserious. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says yes, real. Manuela John, yes. WKD Lama says yes, it is real. It has become a political discussion. And Nicole Walker says absolutely, you can feel it and see it if you're paying attention. I hate that things become political, whether it's human rights, climate. Like it bothers me. Like these things should not be political.
Wow.
They should not be political.
I think it becomes political when there's more than 3 people. I think when you have to have consensus, you have to have group understanding. And regarding people who aren't aware of this, I think climate change is difficult to comprehend because it's a big picture thing, rather than like what's happened next season, what's happened with the last 20 years. And along with the aspect of what should we do, what can we do as an individual person. And I think sometimes when you have those big movements like we're trying to do in Bermuda's Love, we have to be recognized that we're not just by ourselves. It's a community that's working towards it.
Well, there's a question there. It's just like, what can we do individually? Like Bermuda's Love is obviously putting on all these events, right? I see you guys out there. I've been to the garden things when I was back home in Bermuda. Like I've gotten to go to Tatum, and like help out with the garden, community garden there. But like individually, what can people do to actually maybe reduce their carbon footprint or like actually contribute to this massive climate change that's happening? Like, is there any way that actually our little steps are making a difference?
We can definitely make little steps. For example, I've got an electric power bike and I cycle to places when I'm not in a rush, and obviously I still take my motorcycle for that. I think it's also realizing you're not by yourself and coming to our events or other events that recognize that, such as we're going to be talking later on about these climate summits happening in Bermuda, making people realize you're not just by yourself. And when you feel isolated, either people feel isolated and have depression around things, it's important to recognize that you're part of a community. And I think that community aspect is such an important thing that reinforces good change.
Indeed.
What do you think comes out of these sessions that you guys have actually at Bermuda's Love, and people do show up? Like, what's probably something that someone has learned a lot from being there that has like changed your perspective on climate change?
Changing perspective on climate change. So I'll take this 2 points and two separate ones. So, for example, we went down to Clearwater Beach, and we had a lovely lady show us around and what we could forage our own food. And some of the food I was not even aware we had. Of course, you had maybe fennel. People have rosemary in the bushes and gardens, but other food that you're unaware of and used to. So, foraging is a wonderful thing, and we have different events, and people take different events. They like certain events, and they enjoy that. What we can do individually is, of course, one is make sure you don't litter. I think small bits of litter makes a big difference, and it makes our mindset change, as well as sometimes, have a little garden, grow some herbs, grow some things, grow something small, and you can make a big difference. You don't need to be perfect. We just need to be slightly less impactful and make a more impactful difference.
Indeed.
Jumping into the youth summit that you were talking about, can you let us know when is the Youth Climate Summit and what it is about, and what do you hope to get out of it this year?
So I'm actually going to be going there tomorrow, representing Bermuda's Love. I've already recorded a video sort of advocating for that. It started in 2021. Bermuda's Love members have been integral in sort of helping with that, with Aaron Critchlow and William Campbell both doing their own sort of chairing their own sort of positions. It's about getting the youth. And I think when you get older, as I'm getting, I'm still quite young, 26, but when you get older, you keep on getting more no's in your life. And when you're young, you still have that, I want to do something and change. And as you've seen any revolution or evolution, always starts with the youth, and giving them a space for them to openly talk and discuss and recognize it's not just the youth, but also on other non-governmental organizations such as Bermuda's Love, National Trust, and the aquariums, and getting people aware that there are other spaces for them to put out. Because, for example, you talk about what can Bermudians do is, well, you have to figure out what's available now, and that allows for that, as well as this critical discussion.
Indeed, indeed. I want to go to the audience real quickly. Suzanne Ingham's asking, do you think climate change can be caused by the chemtrails? I think chemtrails cause the climate changes.
So you had, for example, we focused a bit before on the ozone layer and how he used to have those hairsprays back in the day, and that created an ozone and created a hole in the ozone layer. And then we were able to solve that by 2000 through the Kyoto Protocol. So some areas, yes. I think it's a complicated thing, and therefore it's difficult to understand every single bit, because you got coal, natural gas, other sort of modes of transport that we use. So it's a big problem, and I think focusing one step at a time.
Gotcha. We've got another question here. Michael Daniels says, as far as local food production, what would be the ultimate in your opinion?
Well, we first talked about you guys mentioning about Bermuda and the slavery, unfortunately, and how that was a microcosm, and then they couldn't expand further. I think what we need to focus on is vertical farming due to our space constraint, as well as electricity costs, which is unfortunate. We could combine both sustainable resources and environmental protection, such as changing those two-dimensional farmlands into three-dimensional and using solar panels to do that, as well as, of course, what people do more too, have their own gardens in back of their house, assuming they had time and enjoyment to do that, which I'm sure you noticed lots of people started getting into during the COVID pandemic. I myself started moving towards that as well.
Okay. Charles H. Jefferson II is asking, what are the group's thoughts on government's plan for us to move fully electrical vehicles?
I think it's a good one. The question is, what's the next stepping stone and what progression it is? Because, for example, electricity, if you produce it from your own house by solar panels, that means it's going to be less gas. Of course, it would be safer, I think, over time. And I think it overall makes sense. The question is, at what stage now? Everything's moving towards that direction. I have solar panel on my parents' house. It's, as you know, it would save you electricity, assuming you keep the batteries and have battery storage as well.
All right. I guess at this point, I really just want to ask, Maya kind of asked it earlier, what can we do as individuals to help the climate and the earth and the environment, right? But what can the community do to support your efforts in doing what you guys are doing?
I think turning up is the most important one, because if nobody turns up, nothing gets done. And then you're able to realize what areas you like about Bermuda's Love, because you have 7 verticals. One being, of course, environmental that we're discussing now, but food, housing, clothing, which requires upcycling, education and programs such as law, and we have legal professions, so pro bono legal. So I think just come to any events. We're on Instagram, Twitter, we have Gmail, we have a mailing list out there, bermudaslove@gmail.com, and come and support and see what you like.
Indeed, indeed. We've got Dorian asking, how do dispose the batteries from electrical vehicles? So how do we dispose them?
Right now, it's extremely difficult. It's not perfect, and most of them I generally think don't, unless it's a special thing, which is a big issue with electric vehicles. But there's a certain mileage when, at a certain point, depending which vehicle you have, is when it's more beneficial to the environment or not. So it's about recycling it over time, and you're noticing right now we're just mining the materials. But for example, Europe and other places like that are going towards recycling aspect and keeping within the system. So I think right now we just need to continue to purchase, and the dollars, what you pay, the market follows, and that's how you get it done. For example, recycle Duracell batteries. You can get electric batteries that you can simply plug back in and reuse them. For example, let's say your AC remote or your TV remote, and you can simply recharge it. That will save you money, and that will save the environment. Something small like that.
It's interesting because that seems to be a concern from quite a few people. Misha Fablo, we need a plan for the full life cycle of the cars. Currently, there's little thought given to end of life for the vehicles, especially the batteries that are no longer serviceable. But also, Suzanne Ingham says, I'm against the EV because that will go... because what will we do, with the lithium batteries, which are very, very toxic. So I think that is a concern. But as you just stated, you know what I mean? We will get there, but I think people are right to have those concerns at this point.
They're completely right, and there's companies that are already recycling them. It's about scaling that up, bringing awareness to that.
All right. Final question: where can people go to learn more and stay up to date with all things climate and environmental working group, but also contribute if they're interested?
So contribute both financially and time-wise. We also have a website, bermudaslove.com. I think .com or .bm, and we're working on doing a monthly contribution at the moment. As I said, we're a charity, so we're finally getting it up and running, and just turning up. I think engagement is the most important thing, personally.
All right, Christian, thank you so much for your time this morning. Another important community conversation. Please, all the best on your travels for the Youth Climate Summit, and keep us up to date. We'll be happy to share whatever you're learning that may help all of us live a more environmentally friendly life. So have a wonderful time. Talk soon. All right. Christian Chingarat, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We're going to take a quick break. 2 minutes, 58 seconds. We'll be back to wrap it up. But also, it's the Daily Play. How much does Maya, or how much do you know about Michael Jackson? Stick with us.